Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer, boards, recorder, videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to This Week in D&D, where I break down the news surrounding Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition and the tabletop RPG industry. This is the week of August 7th, 2025. Although I don't look now, but I've been making jokes about how I should call it like this fortnight in D&D or whatever, because I'm not actually doing it this week, like week after week. But I believe this is like 4 weeks in a row right now. So I'm actually kind of on top of it lately. But for the future schedule, we're going to be doing the crafting of my new Friday D&D campaign, which is coming up very soon. Keys from the Golden Vault, in case you somehow missed that news. On Mondays, that will be my Monday evening stream every Monday. And then Thursdays, at least tentatively right now, we're going to continue doing This Week in D&D on the Thursday afternoon time slot, but then on weeks where I'm actually running the patron game, which is about every 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to rotate it to the crafting Dragonlance. So that will happen next week because we've got a patron game coming next week, so then I can do my craft. So that way we can kind of do all three of the shows, I guess, the live shows, and still keep it to 2 time slots. And it just kind of makes the most sense at this point because I figure people are going to want the crafting Golden Vault is the most important one because that's my big, Friday live show. But people still really like to have crafting Dragonlance, and I do too. I really like having that to, be able to discuss that campaign. So that's the current plan right now. So we still have the 2 live stream time slots. This Week in D&D will stream probably 2/3 of the time, I would say, and then on those weeks where I have the patron game, will do crafting Dragonlance. So next week, do not expect a This Week in D&D, in other words. But thankfully, we are doing it this week today because we had GenCon last week, which is the giant, it's got to be like the biggest still convention of like board games and tabletop RPGs and whatnot. So, and a lot of companies use it to, make big announcements or obviously just have a big presence there. And this was certainly a big one. I think it was record breaking again because, conventions suffered a lot when we hit, like we were, trending where conventions were just getting bigger and bigger as, population just gets bigger. But then COVID happened and that kind of destroyed conventions for a while and kind of reset a lot of the counters. And only now, I think, in the last, 2 years or so, we're finally kind of climbing back out of that. And I think this one broke records again and has gotten real, real crazy. So we have got a lot of news to cover here, so hold on to your butts. First thing we're going to talk about is the news from Darrington Press, aka Critical Role's publishing arm company, and Daggerheart is still very new, and they are bringing in a lot of announcements. We only just recently got the actual core rulebook, I think like a month ago or so, and yes, I do still plan on covering it. Unfortunately, I've been pretty busy with the new spin up of my big D&D adventure. So I think once things settle into a nice routine with that, then I can start looking at covering some Daggerheart. 'Cause I'm interested in looking it out and checking out at least the core rulebook, and maybe doing a full review. So this is from the Darrington Press website. There is a full panel live stream you can watch on their channel, but it's about 2 hour. Oh man, I'm not even subscribed to Darrington Press. Let's fix that. It is, it's 2 hours long, so I haven't watched it yet. I should probably watch it, but I'm not going to watch it for the purpose of this particular news stream right here. So Darrington, the big news, thankfully, are all highlighted when it comes to Daggerheart in bullet points, which is nice. So we've got Daggerheart class packs, which are actually coming to Kickstarter this September. A lot of companies use Kickstarter when it comes to their RPGs or board games. Video games were the first ones to really hit big on. I mean, Kickstarter existed before the video game thing in the early 2010s, but that kind of blew up Kickstarter. But then I think people soured on video games because they took a long time, and it turns out video games are extremely, expensive and time consuming and everything. But then board games and RPGs are still finding a lot of success because I think they kind of hit that sweet spot. Although there are companies like Simon that, they kind of have their own Kickstarter issues, I guess, where you're like, the next game actually funds the last game and so on. There's a lot of fun Kickstarter drama there. So Daggerheart has been selling it as fast as we can restock it, so to keep up with demand and offer another way to play, we're exploring a play accessory we hope you'll love, class packs for Daggerheart. These packs of 76 cards will hold everything an individual player needs to play their class from level 1 all the way to level 10. So an entire deck of cards that has all the information that you could want instead of like a little mini book or a part of a book, which is kind of interesting, I guess. And, obviously would make it a much better price point, I think. Is there an actual, let's see, does this open a Kickstarter link if I open this? Yes, it does. It's like a preview. I don't know if they have pricing just yet. The special thanks to Kickstarter backers helping us bring this new way of life, having a full digital PDF of the core rulebook to backers of any of the class packs. Okay. So it includes the PDF of the core rulebook for a class pack. I assume the class pack is like all of the character cards, though. Ooh, there's a quick start adventure. I need to try that. Damn. I didn't know there was a quick start adventure. Definitely need to try that one out. So yeah, class packs come with the PDF excerpt, and you'll be able to learn a different character. Kickstarter backers to get the full. Okay, I just read that. Coming in September. Homebrew Kit. Available for free now on the Daggerheart website. We're thrilled to answer your request for homebrew design guidance with the Homebrew Kit, which unlocks a wealth of design insights and resources to make it easier to create classes, ancestries, communities, adventures, campaign frames, and more for Daggerheart. This kit will help gaming groups looking to customize their campaigns as well as third-party publishers diving in to make Daggerheart-compatible content using the community gaming license. This is very interesting. Homebrew Kit. To answer your requests for design guidance. So is this because Daggerheart does not have a Dungeon Master's Guide is basically what the equivalent of this is? Because a lot of companies, D&D, they release a player's handbook and a DM handbook, basically, and a monster manual. They milk it for 3 books. Other companies, they just have a single all-in-one core rule book for everybody. And then they'll release like adventures and monster books and stuff. So maybe this is kind of their equivalent, although it's free, which is pretty big. Homebrew Kit. It's a PDF. Contains information about the design choices we made for each aspect of the game, as well as guidance for how we recommend you apply those choices for your own creations to best fit within the ecosystem of official and other homebrew Daggerheart material. It's available for you to use or disregard as you see fit. Okay. Fair enough. I guess I need to check that out too. That's interesting. So kind of an explanation of their systems, maybe some kind of behind the scenes stuff. That's kind of cool. Would like to rewind the DM. We were only level 2. This is what your quote reminds me of, Sylvan. 2-head spell cards. That's going to become very cumbersome. You started getting some levels into your belt. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Romantasy campaign frame coming in 2026. Get your roses ready as we have a new campaign frame, and it is all romantasy with love and magic. That's your game in a world of power and prospect deeply inspired by Tusk love. Enemies and admirers alike are your rivals as you set out to take on this year's matchmaking season in the shining empire of Lumisara, the City of Crowns. So romantasy is this huge subgenre that is a romance genre that happens to take place in a fantasy world. I think if I'm getting that right. But it seems like it's really taken off in the last few years. I'm trying to cite what like the big examples are. I'm not terribly familiar with this genre, I'll be honest. I can't recall. There was one book I did read the first one of by Sarah J. Maas, and I can't remember what the name of it is. But it's the main character is like an assassin. And I think it's a romantasy genre. There wasn't any like steamy scenes in it or anything. So maybe it was more like a young adult or something. I forget what the name of it was. I wasn't a big fan of that book though, because like they did a big problem of tell, don't show, which is supposed to do the opposite, where they constantly tell everybody how much of a badass this character is, but she never gets a chance to like do much. So yeah, not necessarily my thing, but campaign frames, which I need to check that out because I think that's something that both D&D is leaning towards and Daggerheart is going all in at, instead of maybe going super into full-fledged published adventures or going into more of these campaign frames, which are sort of like adventures, but like all the big bullet points and information you have to make the adventure yourself. I really need to take a close look at it because I think it's starting to become a kind of a big main deal now instead of making full-on adventures like we're used to, granted. So that one would come with a lot of romance options, I guess, which is not something I typically want to tackle in my tabletop RPGs, but a lot of people do, I guess. Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford designing for Daggerheart. That's huge news. Obviously, I covered that news when it first got announced that the two were joining Darrington Press and Daggerheart specifically. And this confirms that these two acclaimed designers and their next project will be for Daggerheart. Yeah, Jeremy Crawford will take point on a full setting for Daggerheart inside a hellishly terrifying genre, while Chris Perkins will weave tales spanning campaign frames, there we go again with campaign frames, to a wider interconnected adventure supplement. What does that mean? That's all the information we get, I think, right now, although there is a video we're going to watch in a second. Crawford will take point on a full setting for Daggerheart inside a hellishly terrifying genre. Okay, hellishly terrifying genre. So we're into horror or eldritch horror or something along those lines. Devilish horror. They see hellishly terrifying, so I'm guessing some kind of cult, evil shit going on. So that's a full maybe source book. And then Perkins will actually have campaign frames that connect to a wider interconnected adventure supplement. Interesting. Age of Umbra gets Season 2. Speaking of the spooky, new, and fearful, Age of Umbra will return for a Season 2. Critical Role's dark fantasy survival miniseries will continue on. If you missed this deadly Season 1, you can watch it all now, just as it wrapped last week. I did miss it all. What is the deal with Age of Umbra? Is that something I need to be aware of? Dark fantasy survival miniseries. That sounds cool. Actual plays. We've announced a miniseries by Legends of Evantris and a one-shot by Dungeons and Daddies. Products. We've got an Art of Daggerheart book. Hero Forge stuff. New Daggerheart dice set. New Daggerheart World by creators of Eberron and more. Keith Baker and Jen Ellis's new world in Daggerheart. For the minds of fan-favorite RPG worlds like Eberron and innovative tabletop games like Phoenix, Dawn, Command, Illimit, and the Adventure Zone storytelling game together, which is Baker and Ellis's production studio, are partnering with us to make their next grand world using Daggerheart. Expect thrilling world building and brilliant new player option designs from this powerhouse team. So this sounds like thrilling world building and brilliant new player options. So that is a full-on like expansion book. Man, they've really got like fucking everybody. Like, this is nuts. I would be, I mean, is this like Paizo circa whenever they became a thing, like 2005 or something? Except I don't know if Paizo even had like these kind of big names. I mean, this is crazy. It's exciting. I'm excited about having that kind of like celebrity status from a behind the scenes aspect. And obviously they've got the celebrity status in front of the camera too, with the whole Critical Role group. That's their whole thing, right? They're the biggest celebrities in tabletop RPGs, but now they've got like the biggest behind the scenes names in tabletop RPGs. That is wild. All right, so let's look at let's see, is this it? Okay, so this is specifically the Critical Role. Okay, so this is probably the next topic. So yeah, the problem is I don't want to watch the giant 2-hour Daggerheart GenCon thing, but there is, I will watch it at some point. But that's a lot of news coming out from Daggerheart, and it's a lot of exciting news. A lot of huge names coming in. We've got all these campaign frames. A homebrew kit is free on the Daggerheart website, and then they're releasing these class packs you can get for those of you that play physical tabletop RPGs. But everything about it says they are going all in on Daggerheart and making this a huge main part of like their products, essentially. Like, this is, I don't know what the numbers are, but it's certainly exciting and makes me stand up as somebody who has really had blinders on for D&D for the longest time. I need to check it out. But let's look at the Critical 4 announcement. This one we can watch because it's only like 10 minutes long instead of being 2 hours long. This was at GenCon, I believe, where they officially reveal some information about Critical Role's next campaign, which is huge, because they have pretty long campaigns, as most of us do.
Ten years
Man
ago,
the room.
8 people sat around a table to tell a story. A story that grew into a remarkable, life-changing thing. And that thing grew into another thing, but bigger and faster. And that thing evolved into several other groundbreaking things. Things that those 8 people never could have imagined in their wildest, most synergistic dreams. I am one of those people. Hi, my name is Matthew Mercer.
Usually not into the Grimdark campaigns, but the rules are right and they can support it.
And I want to speak to you about our new tabletop RPG, Daggerheart. We are so deeply pleased with its reception and success, and we can't wait to share all the magical things we have in store for you. From our Romantasy campaign frame, the homebrew kit, our class pack Kickstarter, our upcoming partnerships with people like Hero Forge, Legends of Evantris, Dungeons and Daddies.
And that's not all!
Travis looks like a fucking art dealer here. Got the nice salt and pepper beard, the sweater.
Enter stage. Hello, I am Travis Willingham, CEO of Critical Role. And one of these things that I want to speak to you about is Beacon, our glorious membership service.
Go Frogs.
None of this could have been possible without the love of our glorious Beacon Bits. Our seamless weird kids. Our cool midsties, all our stellar friends at Stinky Dragon.
Steve Jobs with hair.
All of you
Travis,
he is gonna go in for that, isn't he?
This is supposed to be my thing. But what the hell are you dressed as?
Matthew, I'm the CEO. That means I get to wear the white kicks and the turtleneck at the keynote.
Well, I'm the chief creative officer, so I get to...
Listen, Matthew, or should I call you Mark? Let's not turn this into a turtleneck measurement comparison thing, okay?
We are just getting started.
The celebrity status is insane here.
Yes. You see, in just a few brain-meltingly amazing months, we will be at Radio City Music Hall in New York City for Ford and Jester's wedding.
Didn't somebody do like Madison Square Garden or something crazy?
In 2026, we have a totally bricked up slate of live shows coming to you all, starting with Atlanta in May, Berlin and Edinburgh in July, London in October, and finishing it out with Fort Worth in December.
Yeah, Travis.
So please
TCU alums in Fort Worth.
For a
I lived in
totally
Fort Worth for like
cleansing,
15 years.
pulverizing powerhouse of performances.
That's awesome. I wonder if it's Bass Hall.
Travis, her
Fort Worth.
superlatives are better than ours.
I know, and she has like 3 turtlenecks.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's correct. That is because, according to Business Science, I, Marisha Ray, the creative director of Critical Role, am the true alpha of this keynote address.
They're all theater kids, right? They have to be. This is what happens when you end up with like a level 20 theater kid. Oh shit, okay. I have not watched this yet, by the way, if that's an indication.
Sorry.
The real Dungeon Daddies.
Didn't mean to interrupt.
The ultimate turtleneck.
But as the creative director
and game director for Darrington Press.
Wow.
We are thrilled, I tell you, about all of the announcements made this week.
And we can't wait to share with you all what we have cooking up.
But we were wondering.
They're so beloved, but they don't have the charismatic riz of the others. Check your notes. There you go. Lean into it. Good job. There you go. Good job.
I'm sure you're all wondering too.
Where do you think their other hands are?
If we could ask Matthew about Campaign 4.
So, hey Matthew, can you tell us about Campaign 4?
How many more people can we
I'd
have
love to
come to the stage?
me. But how about instead I show you?
So I'm probably gonna have to turn it down. There's music involved. Let's see if there's subtitles. IV. I really like the Civilization series whenever they can just like cut off, you know, parts of the word civilization to make like 4, 5, 6, 7, I guess, sort of, if you jack up some of the letters a little bit. Okay, it's a date, October 2nd. That was the extent of the trailer.
Now, I don't want you all to worry.
New world, new game master.
While I'm not GMing the next campaign,
Oh wait, new game
I will
master.
be
Yeah,
a
that's the big
player
news.
in it.
That's crazy. So that's a first, right? Again, I'm not super plugged into Critical Role, but that's like that's the thing. He's Matt Mercer's like the DM.
I will be playing alongside my favorite familiar faces and a number of newer ones
I did get spoiled
that
on
I
this news
cannot
about
wait to
the new
reveal to
GM.
you in the very near future.
But that's
It's
amazing.
exciting.
Forever
Soon
DM
enough,
gets
trust
to be
me,
a player in
sooner
a big
than you think.
campaign.
Okay, wait though. So,
He's a tear in
just
my
to be
eye.
clear, you're not GMing.
No.
Okay, wait. Chris and Jeremy, are you DMing?
No?
No, my stars, no.
So if you're not DMing and you're not
Bring out
DMing,
another person to the stage.
who's DMing?
Well, they actually happen to be in the building. You want me to bring them out? Well, critters.
Probably
Let's
the
bring to
second most
stage
famous
the GM for Campaign 4,
DM, right?
Brennan Lee Mulligan.
Or do we think he's more famous than Matt Mercer now? That's a good question. Now it makes sense why he's been doing the rounds on all these like D&D podcasts and talk shows and stuff. Also got the right for the next one.
10.
Years ago, I was a struggling improviser riddled with medical debt from my fucked up teeth. But I was aware of this thing called Critical Role. I watched it.
This is where they lost me and stopped
I loved
watching.
it.
Interesting.
the game, stories shared by these amazing friends. And I was lucky enough to meet
I don't think I've
working
actually watched
backstage
a single
on a little
game
show
that
called Actually.
Brendan Lee Mulligan is GM or something.
Meet Matt Mercer, and I will never forget, as long as I live, the kindness and the friendship
Played with Brendan
that
as a DM
happened
before on Dimension
to
20.
form
Okay.
in that moment.
Yeah, definitely
and
not watched
continued ever
Dimension 20
since.
before.
It is a privilege, an honor, and a gift. And if you guys are ready for your next epic adventure, make some noise!
They always go to level 20 on the Critical Role campaigns. They do like full-ass campaigns.
Take a bow, take a bow.
God, I'm sure Mercer, with Darrington
So
Press and
that's
everything going on, Daggerheart, I'm sure he's like, you know what? Can I not DM this next campaign? Can I take a break and be a player?
Genuinely,
That's fair. I'm not
so
familiar
happy
with
to
the
have
style.
You all here tonight. We're so happy for all the things we have in store for you for the next 10 years to come.
I mean, good for them for turning this into a
Please,
like fucking their
enjoy
own
the rest of your
independent
evening
business.
here
That's amazing.
amongst friends and family. And let's go ahead and jump into tonight's episode of Critical Role.
So there you go. Brendan Lee Mulligan to GM Critical Role Campaign 4, which starts in October. Because they do take breaks between their big campaigns. They do other stuff. It's made at GenCon. Mulligan has worked with Critical Role in the past, both of his Exandria Unlimited miniseries, having received high praise from fans. News is also a major... This is from N-World's news post. The news is also a major shakeup, as this will be the first time that a full-length Critical Role campaign has not featured Matt Mercer or the world of Exandria. Oh, I guess I missed that. They did say New World on the trailer, didn't they? But they didn't actually reveal what that world was. Both Mercer and Exandria are taking a break. You know what? That might be a way to soften the transition for fans, because there may be some trepidation with having a new GM take over the familiar world that was so built up and authored by one designer. So by giving the new DM a completely different world to play in, I think that's going to make it a little bit easier for folks to accept, I would imagine. Again, I'm speaking this as somebody who's not a Critical Role fan. I don't say that to badmouth Critical Role. I have nothing against it. I'm just not like plugged in or anything to it. But as an outsider, I imagine that's probably an easier sell, is with a new DM comes a new world. But we didn't get information about that world, did we? I wonder if it's going to be like a full-fledged thing like Exandria is, like with like source books and stuff. Maybe that has something to do with some of the new content coming out in like Daggerheart, for example. Also, are they still playing Dungeons and Dragons? That's going to be very interesting going forward. Like, you would imagine they'd want to play their own fucking system with Daggerheart, I would think. That's... Have they announced if they're officially doing D&D as their system? And are they going to switch at some point? That's an interesting question. Matt Mercer, hey Tiger Uppercut. Matt Mercer said GM and not DM, probably because it will be Daggerheart. Oh, you're ahead of me. I just now saw your thing. Yeah. True. They did say that, didn't they? You know, I always forget, as somebody who has played so much D&D and not so much of anything else, that DM is literally a like trademarked specific term to Dungeons and Dragons. Because I know with me and my friends, we even still use the term DM when we talk about like Chris running. I guess with that one, it's Game Mother, which is funny. Like when he does Alien RPG or something. But I know that we use that phrase interchangeably, even though I know in my head it's a term specific to Dungeons and Dragons, whereas Game Master is the actual like generic term. It's kind of like how we all call, in the US at least, like tissues are Kleenex, even though Kleenex is a brand of tissue. There's a few more examples like that, where the brand becomes like so synonymous with the product itself. And I feel like that's kind of what DM does, but you're right. I think they did mention GM a few times, so very interesting indeed. All right, moving on. Todd Kendrick. This post is actually, I think, a little bit old, but well, I'll let Todd explain it. But Todd is, we remember him from obviously Dungeons and Dragons, Wizards of the Coast. He did basically all of their YouTube like news announcements and did a lot of like sit down like the style was Todd would sit down with like Crawford or Perkins or somebody from or a bunch of people from the design team, and they would talk about a product that was coming out. I admit I wasn't a huge fan of that specific style of how they did it, but Kendrick was basically laid off not too soon after, or not too far from when Perkins and Crawford left, but they were both able to fully retire and leave, and Kendrick was actually laid off. But it sounds like he's also covering a lot of Daggerheart stuff now.
Job. I have been sad. I have been in shock just as much as you, but I'm not going to stop. I'm spinning up my YouTube channel. I'm going to be funding that YouTube channel with my Patreon. And we're
going independent
same
is what it sounds like.
With some very familiar faces. And
as so many
I'm also going to be creating on Patreon
enthusiast journalism has to be
that is compatible with D&D, with Daggerheart, and eventually I want to publish my own book of player-focused content.
Okay.
I'm going to be going to GenCon. I'm going to be flying to LA to collect interviews, and all of this is going to be funded through my Patreon. Thank you to the D&D design team and our team for being so lovely and wonderful and creative, to Critical Role, to Baldur's Gate 3 cast for being so supportive and kind and fantastic to produce live play shows for. Thank you to the community for reaching out to me during this time period and being so kind and supportive. It has meant the world. I was laid off from Wizards of the Coast.
Okay. I don't like how shorts automatically replay, by the way. I find that annoying. So yeah, Kendrick is back on YouTube, I guess, because if you notice there was a break, you can see in his video uploads, yeah, there's one from, or he does much from 3 years ago, and then all of a sudden there's 1 month ago. So just did straight up videos for the main Wizards of the Coast channel, and is now doing his own YouTube channel again, or back to it. It's on Patreon. Seems to cover a lot of like really nice news stuff, which is awesome as somebody who only just started covering news stuff myself. There's not a lot of folks out there that are doing that, at least in video content. And I think he's, a pretty likable guy, and he's been inside the industry, which is always nice to have. And he knows a shit ton of contacts and all of that. So I am not even, okay, let's go and subscribe. I did that with I'm subscribing to a lot of people, apparently. This is how much I apparently need to use YouTube more. So Todd Kendrick on YouTube, and covering a lot of news stuff, and especially, look at that. One of his things about how Daggerheart is like super popular. Like, yeah, this is the big thing right now. Ain't no fun. Critical Role is the biggest and best shot at breakup of the tabletop RPG monopoly. Yeah, I agree. Critical Role has been, so huge for D&D, and such a big aspect of why D&D has become so popular. It's kind of a multifaceted, the Stranger Things, and then 5th edition being just a really good edition. Like, all of these things are factors. Live streaming in general, but the fact that Critical Role, jumped on it so early. Although, fun fact, we've been doing it for 10 years also. We're not, celebrity voice actors, but we've been there for almost 5th edition's entire run. But yeah, obviously. And Daggerheart, I think, represents their probably the best shot of unseating 5th edition, I would think, out of anybody right now, for sure. And especially if they can pump as much, enthusiasm and monetary support and all that, and then leverage that just star power, and, as I mentioned, in front of the camera and behind the camera, the celebrity star power they have is really powerful for Daggerheart's future. So yeah, Todd Kendrick. Okay, Forgotten Realms. This is the new product coming out very soon. It was going to be Eberron, but fortunately Eberron got delayed, as I talked about in a previous This Week in D&D, till December. So now the next big product is the kind of 2-in-1 release. I guess we're just calling it Forgotten Realms, but it's Adventures in Faerun and Heroes of Faerun. One of them is obviously got adventure stories. The other one is more player focused. And these are coming out in September. And the reason I'm talking about this now is because we have an official D&D Beyond listing for the Ultimate Bundle, which includes the 2 products plus more stuff. So this is kind of a new thing that they're doing. I don't know if this is going to be the way forward, but they're basically including extra, I want to say like DLC, like for video game terminology, like because video games have deluxe editions, right? All the time, premium editions, whatever. And they, yes, you can, some of them have like really fancy physical editions with the, little miniature figures and poster maps and everything, but I'm not even necessarily talking about that. I'm talking about just like deluxe editions that include, their season pass worth of content or whatever, like future DLC that hasn't even come out yet will give you the privilege of paying us now and not giving it to you until later. Wow, that's a hell of a deal when you put it like that. So what this includes, Adventures in Faerun and Heroes of Faerun, both of which are full-ass products, by the way. The physical versions, $49.99 for Heroes of Faerun and $59.99 for Adventures in Faerun. That's pretty pricey. The digital bundle alone just is $126.90. Okay, I need to look at all these bundles because I want to get some itemization out here. But the one we're looking at right now at the main page is the Ultimate Bundle. The most, I thought it said the most expensive. It is the most expensive. It's the most expansive take on the Forgotten Realms in D&D history. The Forgotten Realms Ultimate Bundle is complete with new stories, lore, locations, player options, and encounters. Create powerful new heroes, weave unforgettable stories, and experience this timeless D&D setting like never before. Purchase to save $76 and receive the physical and digital versions of both Adventures in Faerun and Heroes of Faerun, plus a digital map pack and dice set. Great. And 3 digital expansions. That's the interesting thing here that makes this kind of like a season pass content thing. If you pre-order, you can receive the exclusive Forgotten Realms Dalabad Oasis animated map from Maps VTT. Also receive the Atlas of Faerun, a digital map of the entire Faerun continent for the D&D Beyond Compendium and Maps VTT. Ooh, I do want to see the Atlas of Faerun. Okay, so I think we have to scroll all the way down to see what it includes, which I think is here. I keep wanting to say the most expensive. The most expensive Forgotten Realms resource yet. Okay, the bundle includes, here's the itemization. The digital and physical version of Heroes of Faerun, so that bundle together is $79.98. The digital and physical versions of Adventures in Faerun, $99. My goodness. How big is this fucking book? We need to look at this. A Baldur's Gate 3 digital map pack. That's interesting. Usable only on Maps VTT for $5.99. A digital dice set, which I don't know who the fuck cares about digital dice, for $5.99. And then 3 adventures, which I don't know if we've heard about yet. I think this has only been teased before. Astarion's Book of Hungers. A digital expansion with new vampire-themed player options, monsters, and adventure content shared by Astarion himself. Priced at $14.99, release date November 11th. By the way, all of these come out later. They're not out when the bundle first releases. Because I assume the bundle comes out at the same time that the other books come out, which is in September. I'll actually say the date on there. Shoot, where was I? There we are. So that's one DLC, is Astarion's Book of Hungers, which has vampire stuff in there, which is fascinating because we don't have any vampire-themed... We do have vampire monsters in the monster manual. In fact, we have more than we usually do. I think before we only had vampire and vampire spawn. Now we have I forget the names, but I think there were at least 2 other flavors of vampires now. Like one was like more spellcastery or something. But we definitely did not have vampire-themed player options, I don't believe. And I do love that they're leaning hard on the Baldur's Gate 3 characters. The second one is Netheril's Fall, a digital expansion where players can explore the Lost Netherese Empire in a time-traveling adventure. Also priced at $14.99 and releases a week later on November 18th. So the Netherese Empire, I am somewhat familiar because they were featured in Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden. That might be slightly spoilery, I guess, to mention. But it's used in a pretty cool way, I thought, in that campaign, and I really ran with that and enjoyed that part of the campaign. But here it's not even that you're exploring room. I mean, a time-traveling adventure is pretty unique. which is something that they kind of tease that's a possibility maybe at the very end of that campaign as like an epilogue sequence, and not something I really entertained as a possibility. So that's pretty interesting, and maybe you could even use that as a proper adventure after a rhyme. Now, it doesn't say at all like if this is a full like what level this adventure is for, I guess, and how long is this adventure. It doesn't have that information on here yet. And then the third one is not announced yet. A secret third digital expansion to be revealed soon. Release date November 25th, 2025. That's how much you get to give them the pleasure of giving them money for future content that's not out yet, including at least one of them that you have no idea what it is. Again, I'm being very cynical, but this is a very video gamey thing to do. Very video gamey thing to do. Where you're getting like the season pass worth of content. And to be fair, a lot of companies do give out pretty great like season pass content. Not all of them do. Some of them are crap. And you obviously have to know that you're going to like the base game enough to go for that, but at least here it's you should know you're going to like it or not. Also receive the Atlas of Faerun, which is the digital map of the Faerun continent. So that's interesting, because I don't think we've ever seen this kind of release before, where they're really jamming a lot of this extra content in here. And because they're itemizing each one, obviously you can buy all these things separate. But if you wanted to get the ultimate bundle, which I think I buried the lead on that, is priced at $159.99. So for $160, you get the full Adventures in Faerun and Heroes of Faerun, which I think means you've basically covered the cost according to what they've priced it at. Right? Because, like, I mean, Adventures in Faerun alone is $100 for the digital and physical versions. Heroes of Faerun is another $80. So you've already more than made the deal. Again, assuming you accept their pricing, right? Which means you basically get all the other stuff for free, I guess, if you're going to go all in. So as cynical as I am, like, I guess if you already want the digital and physical versions of both of these products, is there a reason not to get this ultimate bundle? So maybe the joke's on me. Because you do get all this. I mean, it's all basically free. The map packs and all these extra DLC contents. So I guess maybe they're just really trying to sell you the two books together in their most complete versions. As a reminder, Heroes of Faerun is a 192-page player compendium, which is pretty solid size. I think that's close to about a Tasha's or Xanathar's side. Is that correct? I think those are probably around that length. 8 new subclasses. I think that translates out to 1 new subclass for each class. Is that right? No, there's more than 8. Yeah, there's more than 8 classes. God, if I had somebody put a gun to my head, it's like, how many classes are in D&D? It's like, fuck. Like 11, 12? I think it's more than 8. So maybe not quite 1 for each subclass. New spells and the all-new Circle Magic. 8 classic and emerging factions. Can we name the factions? Zentarum, Lord's Alliance, Order of the Gauntlet, Harper's, the Emerald Enclave. I think those are the ones that were in like the 2014 version. It does say emerging. So are there 3 new ones, or there's 3 I'm not thinking of? What would be a full faction? Faction means they have to be like more than like just one city or area, I guess. So like you could say like maybe Xanathar Guild or something, but I don't think they really operate like outside of Waterdeep. I don't know if I can name another faction. There's like cults and stuff out there. I don't know if that counts as a faction though. Well, I got most of them. Primer on the 42 gods and renowned support. That's a lot of gods. New feats and backgrounds, catalog of regional equipment, and overview of the 10 Forgotten Realms regions. So important note here, they're not calling it like Sword Coast, you know, this, Sword Coast, that. Ooh, Red Wizards of Thay, that's a good one. I agree. Especially because that was a big thing in the movie where they really talked about the Honor Among Thieves movie. They really talked about the Red Wizards as this this big faction. And you know what, that's true, because I'm thinking totally Sword, because they could do like something from Cormier could be a faction, was like Purple Knights or something. So hopefully the other ones are like more in other areas, I guess. But yeah, the fact that they say 10 Forgotten Realms region, so maybe they're actually not forgetting about the rest of the Forgotten Realms and just focusing entirely on the Sword Coast like they did in the last 10 years. And saying, oh wait, the Forgotten Realms actually encompasses a lot more than the Sword Coast. The adventures in Faerun. Breathtaking new landscapes, devastating adversaries, and limitless storytelling. A 288-page guide. That's a little more solid. What would be that equivalent of? Pulling out books. Let's see how long like the Eberron sourcebook is. The Eberron book is 320 pages. Rising from the Last War. So, it's close to that. It's pretty solid. Includes 5 settings, each with a gazetteer. Which is... They kind of popularized that, I guess. It's kind of like an overview of characters, locations, maybe some history notes. Just kind of the way they do various settings. It's been popular for cities, especially, like Descent into Avernus, I think, at a Baldur's Gate gazetteer. Dragon Heist at a Waterdeep gazetteer. So they cover a lot of their big cities. 50 plus pick up and play adventures. That's interesting. They're not calling them campaign frames or anything there. 50 plus makes me kind of worried. How detailed are these adventures? I don't necessarily want quantity, I want quality. 37 new monsters and villains. The Lost Library of, my goodness, how do you pronounce that? Lethchantos? An introductory adventure for characters level 1 through 3 and customizable for all settings that you can use to jumpstart your adventure. Wait, why do we need to make it customizable for all settings? This is literally the Forgotten Realms adventures. It should be set in the Forgotten Realms, right? Am I crazy? So only one thing they're actually mentioning is a full-on adventure. The rest of them are pick-up-and-play adventures. 12 new magic items and bastions unique to each setting. Adventures in Faerun includes over 50 quick-play maps. Jesus. Okay, you have my attention. Unlike our standard digital maps, quick play maps come preloaded with monster tokens, fog of war, and stickers. Fuck. So, does this mean you have like full-on dungeons? Like 50 dungeons? Like, it doesn't say dungeons, but maps. Maps could mean anything. Well, that's interesting. I'm definitely interested. I mean, obviously I'm going to review it, but that's okay. It's maybe more of a like montage of layers and dungeons and encounters, but each of them has a map at least. So more than like a paragraph, I guess. I was worried it was like, here's a story seed idea. But now it's like, okay, are we actually like itemizing an area and saying like, here's what you could use this area for, and here's, you know, a little mini adventure, a self-contained thing. I'd so rather have like, instead of like 50 plus, give me like 6 quality adventures that are somewhere between an introductory adventure and Lost Mine of Phandelver, I guess. I think is what I'd rather have. So, more details about all this. Let me dive real quick. Holy crap, I haven't barely touched my news. It's been so much news. I think, is this trailer new?
Return to a world of mystery.
I don't know if I can mute the...
Littered with ancient ruins to explore. From the frozen terrors of...
Okay, I have seen this trailer before, yeah. Karlach and Elminster.
Here, legends are made.
Yeah, they don't really show anything there. What do we think about this? Okay, so let's open up these specifically in different tabs, because I feel like I do need to cover... This is just going to be a long episode, I think. So Heroes of Faerun, the digital and physical is $59.99. Okay, but it's... So they listed at $79, I think, right? For the Ultimate Bundle. So even they're saying it's cheaper, which is kind of some shenanigans. Yeah, so look, they listed at $79.99 as the price, but if you actually order it like... I guess it's the pre-order bonus. It's $59.99. The digital alone is $29.99. And the physical is $49.99. Okay, so right now the only difference is pre-order is just not that much more expensive than the physical to get the digital included. So really, you're not, I guess if you're pre-ordering it, you're not saving too much. Oh wait, it's November? I thought it was coming out in September. Am I wrong? Fuck is coming out in September then? Maybe it is all coming out in November. Oh, I am wrong. It's Here's the Borderlands is coming out in September. The starter kit. This one is coming out later. My bad. My bad. So we do get at least one of the DLCs when it first releases in November 11th. So that's the Astarian Book of Hungers, and then the other ones don't actually release until like slightly staggered, which is weird to even stagger them by a week. Like, are they done or aren't they? That's kind of bizarre. It's like, all right, you get one of the DLCs right when it launches, but you gotta wait a week for the other ones. And one of them we have not even announced yet. And Adventures in Faerun, if you pre-order, is $75. So $60 and $75 versus $160 for the Ultimate Bundle. So now it's a little less attractive if we go by the pre-order price. I'm just trying to break it down for you. 52 maps is a hell of a thing, though. That's pretty crazy. Like, they've got my attention with that one. Like, it's one thing to tell you got a lot of adventures, but to include full maps for each one? Okay, okay. That's a little more interesting. Yeah, I will definitely be reviewing the shit out of this. Both copies, I guess. And I guess I should review them separately because you can purchase them separately. Just fantastic artwork, which we have certainly gotten used to. All right, so that's some details about the D&D Forgotten Realms, specifically like the DLC coming, as well as some prices and everything else. Everything is listed on the D&D Beyond website for pre-order. Release date is November 11th for Adventures in Faerun, which is almost 300 pages worth of adventures and a shit ton of maps and stuff. And then Heroes of Faerun, which is about 200 pages and has new subclasses, feats, factions. For some reason are in this one instead of the other one, I guess. Because I guess factions are important for players to know about. I'm not familiar with what circle magic means. Renown, I assume that has something to do with like your factions, maybe. All right, moving on. We got Pathfinder on D&D Beyond. What? How is that possible? The Abomination Vault's Adventure Path specifically can now be purchased on D&D Beyond, one of Pathfinder's most popular and exciting campaigns. Is that true? I've heard of a couple of Pathfinder adventures. I don't think this is one of them. With the mysterious Gauntlight, an eerie landlocked lighthouse glows with baleful light. The people of Otari know something terrible is beginning. So, this sounds familiar. Is Atari the... I say like Atari, like the 70s video game. Is Otari the starter town from the starter kit they did? The one I reviewed? Because I think they did say they had like a sequel or two that you could play after that. And this might be that. I'd have to look up my own frickin' review. Did I do a written review of it? Let's find out. I'm going to go to roguewatson.com and search for Pathfinder. I did. Second edition beginner box is the one I reviewed. Let's see. If I control F Otari. Yes, it is. It's exactly what it's from. Boom, I couldn't remember that. That review is from 2023. Pathfinder 2nd Edition Beginner Box Review. Apparently did a video review of it too. Go me. Pretty positive on it, looks like. And yeah, the review, the adventure is Menace under Otari. Oh, I said the adventure itself was a mixed bag. Oh. So apparently this takes place in the same town, I guess. Evil stirs in the depths of the Abomination Vaults. Well, maybe we shouldn't call it the Abomination Vaults then. That's a very Diablo thing to do, is everything is like, let's head over to the Pit of Despair and the Hellish Town. Like, everything's named so hilariously melodramatic. A sprawling dungeon where a wicked sorcerer attempted to raise an army of monsters hundreds of years ago. The town's newest heroes must venture into a sprawling dungeon filled with beasts and traps to prevent a spiteful spellcaster from rising again. That sounds very generic dungeon crawly. Content warning. While Abomination Vault's adventure path contains typical Pathfinder action and adventure, it also presents themes of suicide, ableism, body horror, and human experimentation. Before you begin to understand that player content is vital to safe and fun experience for everyone, you should talk to your players from the beginning. Have they ever listed a content warning on adventures before? I don't mind them doing this, but I feel like this is throwing shade on the Pathfinder team. Unless they have actually put content warning on all of their products. But I feel like that's kind of throwing a bit of shade. They're like, hey, we're going to sell this on here, but you should know it's got some extra warnings. It's like, all right. I'm pretty sure you can find all of these things in other D&D adventures also. Let's see, what does it include? 16 new magic items, over 90 monsters through 10 levels of Mega Dungeon. So it's just a big-ass dungeon crawl. Which, I have mixed feelings on Mega Dungeons. I like dungeon crawling. I think D&D and obviously Pathfinder is basically just 3.5 D&D. Shines best in during dungeon crawls, but I don't know if we all we ever want to do is a dungeon crawl, right? Like back to back to back to back. That seems like it would get tedious. But maybe they can do fun things with that. Maybe they turn some of them into more of a puzzle and give you some reprieves and stuff. I don't know. Personal NPCs, terrific treasures. Oh, I love this design right here. Dude's like a dwarf with a mohawk and fucking drum sets, like a marching band. The whole group has got instruments. It's just a bard team. That's amazing. 13 fully integrated dungeon maps. Sounds good. Enter the Mega Dungeon. Adapted to the newest versions of D&D. Talk about a weird, like, wraparound cycle where Pathfinder was born from the ashes of D&D 3.5, was a major competitor for years throughout 4th edition. 5th edition comes out, Pathfinder's still going around, but has taken a back seat. And now, I won't say swallowed their pride, but I don't know anything about the relationship with Wizards or anything. I'm sure it's actually pretty positive now. And now they're saying, okay, we'll just release this adventure and just convert it to D, which I think they've done that with actually a couple ones. I don't think this is the only one where they've actually converted it to the D&D 5th edition rule set. You've heard about the quality and depth of Pathfinder campaigns for years. Now explore the Abomination Vaults yourself without having to learn a new rules engine. And to be fair, it's in Paizo's best interest to be like, yeah, if more people play 5th edition, fuck it, we can just convert some of our adventures, which we have a lot of, into D&D. I don't know if Abomination Vault would be the one that would show it off the most. Like Rise of the Rune Lords, isn't that like the most famous one? I reviewed one that was, I forgot what it's called now, but I reviewed one adventure path. Each individual episode is a separate review when they were on Roll20. And that one was interesting because it took you to different areas and had different, like, multiple things going on where you're, like, you know, in cities and doing a whole bunch of stuff that makes a whole campaign. I don't know if just having a singular mega dungeon best shows off, like, Paizo's design. But on the other hand, it is maybe an easy one to convert. So Abomination Vaults is available on D&D Beyond. Most importantly, it's available in the D&D 5e rule set because, yeah, you probably have heard that Paizo and Pathfinder have made a shit ton of adventures over the years, their adventure paths. Which I guess I haven't actually run any of those. Now that I think about it. I feel like Empire of the Ghouls from Cobalt Press was pretty close to that design because each chapter felt like an adventure path. But I guess I haven't formally actually run any of those. Speaking of Paizo, I really got to run through these now. We're over an hour. They announced, or I guess they already announced it, but they released Starfinder 2nd Edition, which is something I really do want to do some kind of version of because it's a good excuse to run sci-fi and not fantasy. New era for Starfinder, beginning of Pathfinder's Hellfire Crisis. Today marks the release of our August 2025 products, which includes the Starfinder 2nd Edition Player Core Rulebook. The definitive entry point for Starfinder 2nd Edition with everything a player needs to learn how to play the game. 10 ancestries, 6 character classes, hundreds of feats and spells. They also call it science fantasy, I believe, and not science fiction, which is appropriate. That's science fantasy is more like Star Wars, I guess. 100% compatible with the acclaimed 2nd edition of the hit Pathfinder role-playing game, along with Starfinder GM Core and Alien Core. These books provide a new foundation for the future of tabletop gaming. So they do have a separate GM book? Okay. Available in hardcover, Paizo.com, hobby retail exclusive, retro video game inspired hardcover, and special edition faux leatherette bound hardcover editions, as well as PDF format. I've covered Starfinder also. In fact, I reviewed the original Starfinder release whenever it came out, so I feel like I should cover Starfinder 2nd edition as well. I don't know if anybody has tried playing Starfinder before. The main thing, again, that attracts me is just having a cool science fantasy, Guardians of the Galaxy or Star Wars-esque world to play in. But I don't know how finicky or anything the rules are, and again, my players are so plugged into D&D. That would be a bit of a struggle. But I mean, we played Alien RPG just fine, so it can happen, I guess. This is the Starfinder 2nd edition trailer, which unfortunately may use licensed music.
The veil between worlds is thin here.
Alright, so we're probably gonna have to mute you. Sorry about that. They are showcasing a bunch of... This is a fully 3D animated trailer, by the way. These look like Starfinder characters. I think it's mainly just music. There's no... I've got captions on. There's no people talking. People walking around a spaceship. I don't even know what that creature is. Scanners indicate a large biomass behind that corridor. Likely our target. Oh dear. The actual human character looks the worst, though. That's some Uncanny Valley stuff. Got somebody who looks like a cyberpunk wizard. I remember they have big dinosaur-looking guys. I don't know what he's supposed to be. Looks like a fucking chinchilla dude. This is all a little goofy. Maybe that's the point. It's like an android. Doesn't Starfinder have tall four-armed people? I'm not seeing that anywhere. They do have insects. Yeah. Insect people. I don't know whether to be impressed by this or kind of cringe. This is... I mean, it's impressive that they went to the lengths to make a full 3D animated action trailer. Okay, now we're getting into the... Is there still... Yeah, there's still music. Yeah, sorry. So we're actually showing people playing the game. There's cool maps. People GMing. Show some character sheets, show some minis. Blast off into the future with Starfinder 2nd edition. The newest science fantasy RPG. They called it science fantasy. From Paizo. Choose from 6 classes, which is pretty low amount compared to Pathfinder especially. The magical mystic, the charismatic envoy, the stealthy operative, the heavy-hitting soldier, the cosmic-powered Solarian, and the paradoxical witch warper. Those all sound like cool classes. High-tech, high-octane, light-hearted spacefaring journey through the cosmos. Which sounds like a great theme that I think my players would really like. One thing I haven't had a chance to do is really review adventures from Starfinder. Built on the same 3-action economy engine as Pathfinder 2nd edition, making both games mechanically compatible. Crash a starship full of alien threats into your Pathfinder campaign, or send your Pathfinder heroes through space. I would not be interested in mixing them. Again, the whole point that I would be interested in is because of the science fantasy theme. Welcome to the next generation of science fantasy gaming. Cool. Does anybody have any thoughts or experiences with Starfinder? Something I've always meant to kind of check out, I guess. And I guess 2E is an excuse to check it out. All right, real quick, moving on. Baldur's Gate 3 turns 2 years old, second anniversary, which is nuts. But, I mean, honestly, it's a longer anniversary because they've been around since 2020 when they released in early access. So it's 3 years of early access and then 2 years afterwards. Released in early access in 2020, came out as 1.0 in 2023, and it is now 2025, so that math checks out. 2 years later, Baldur's Gate 3 is going to something far beyond we could have ever imagined then. Become a shared universe, shaped just as much by your imagination as ours. 2 years of Baldur's Gate 3. Since the introduction, you've uploaded over 8,500 mods. Oh, since the introduction in September 2024, 8,500 mods and 265 million mod downloads. So they just share a bunch of fun stats, I think. Baldur's Gate 3 in numbers. Only 1.82% of all players managed to earn 100 gold from playing music. Okay, so that's an achievement, I guess. 2% of players wobbled their way to victory, defeating 20 opponents while drunk. Often drinking from the bottle, closely follow... Oh, PlayStation players. That's funny. They can differentiate. 2.3% of players managed to multi-class their way through every class in a single playthrough without asking dear old Withers for a helping hand. Wait, multi-class through every class? So you'd have to take a new class every single level. Oh, what a fascinatingly bonkers challenge that is. You would be so weak. And have so much weird overlap. What even would your spell slots look like? That's fascinating. What an insane playthrough. It's funny that people just have excuses for playthroughs. That's hilarious. 3.87% of players managed to defeat Gortash and Worm's Rock without activating any traps. We definitely activated a lot of traps in our playthrough. 1.1 million players have completed Baldur's Gate 3 in Tactician mode, which I think is their hard mode. Obscure Baldur's Gate achievements. Almost 500,000 players thought it would be fun to complete Baldur's Gate 3 in Honor mode. Wow. That's a lot. 6% of players managed to knock the dragon out of the sky mid-flight. I don't know you could do that. 2.6% of players managed to rescue Saza 3 times in one playthrough. She cannot be caged. Is that the goblin from the starter tiefling place? 3 times in one playthrough. So she keep getting captured? That's interesting. These are all kind of spoilery, I guess, too. Just over 5% of players managed to avoid any tiefling refugees meeting an untimely death. So only 5% avoids any refugees avoiding a death, okay? Which if you play as Lae'zel, I'm not sure it's possible, because that happens in our campaign, where you literally just find, like, tieflings dead, where she would be. 8.2% of players thought to use an enemy as an improvised weapon against another. Nice. Throwing is hilarious in that game. Honor mode. 4,647 players managed to beat Honor mode using only a level 1 character. How the fuck? These are like speedrun insanities. 31,000 players beat Honor mode as a jack of all trades. Crazy. Most respect companions. Shadowheart, 4.8 million. Yeah, because Trickery Domain sucks. I bet a lot of people left her as a cleric, but they didn't like her subclass. It's thematic, don't get me wrong. It's probably what she should be, given her Shar-ness, but in terms of what you need from a cleric, most of us are probably respecting her as a healer, man. Subclass respec stats. This is all very interesting. Karlach was respec into Oath of Vengeance Paladin. Ooh. Shadowheart. Oh, here it goes. Almost equally as often respec into either Death Domain or Life Domain Cleric. That checks out. Yeah. Lae'zel also respect. I mean, Paladin's such a fucking strong subclass. Oath of the Crown Paladin. Gale respect into Draconic Bloodline Sorcerer subclass. Okay. Starion was respec the most into a Hexblade Warlock. Isn't Will a Hexblade Warlock? Not to be outdone, Will was respec into a Hexblade Warlock against a whopping 330,000 campaigns. Maybe he's a different kind of Warlock. Of course, didn't they only add Hexblade and like Death Domain, like some of the other ones like recently. So maybe that's why the respecs are higher. Baldur's Gate 3 in numbers. 350 players also respect Minx into a Death Domain cleric. Are you folks doing okay? Never even found Minx in our co-op campaign. Photo mode creations. Ha! That's funny. These are fantastic. Man, so cool. What a generational RPG. Just absolutely amazing. Hats off to everything about Baldur's Gate 3. All right, real quick. Final piece I think that I was going to talk about is Free League announces an anime-inspired Twilight Sword RPG at GenCon. Free League is, of course, another big. They've done Alien RPG and published a lot of licensed stuff. Twilight Sword is, I think, an original one from an Italian game studio, Two Little Mice. It says anime-inspired or RPG-inspired, but it is very much like Legend of Zelda. Straight up. I mean, look at the fucking like character on the cover here. Is literally like a gender-bent Link. And it's called Twilight Sword, which almost feels like a fucking Zelda, no, Legend of Zelda : Twilight Sword. Uses its own system, I believe. Adventure role-playing game inspired by classic video games like The Legend of Zelda, Final Fantasy, Ni no Kuni, and the animated movies of Studio Ghibli. Man, everybody's going after that Ghibli stuff now. So many video games are doing the Ghibli thing. Players stuck in the role of champions who try to bring hope back to the world in the lands of Radia. Only after setting the world tree from desperation will the heroes gain access to the Fortress of Evil, where they can face the Scourge Vardis in a battle that will decide the fate of Radia. Very much sounds like a typical JRPG, I guess. Exploration, hope, and fighting monsters. You are the champion. Defeating a scary monster, helping a young man profess his love, are both worthy deeds that can dispel desperation. So maybe more simplified, but honestly, it feels a little too on the nose for its inspirations, I think. To where, like, Nintendo lawyers are kind of sitting up a little bit. You can get a free preview of it, though, a whole Gen Con preview. Here, and I mean, I like the art style fine, but it's again very much inspired from like Breath of the Wild. Like even the enemies, like dude, you guys literally made like a fucking Legend of Zelda tabletop RPG. You know that, right? A little on the nose on that one, in my humble opinion. All right, I think that is going to do it for this extra long episode of This Week in D&D. As a big always thank you to the patrons for helping to support the channel and make these streams happen. Again, I will not be here with This Week in D&D next week. Instead, we'll be doing Crafting Dragonlance because we've got a patron D&D going on next week. But I will definitely see you all tomorrow for what will hopefully be our final stream of Shadowgate. And then we're going to kick off our session 0 for our next big campaign of Keys in the Golden Vault. Shoutouts to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Brandon, Genocider, Roleplay Roll, Christopher Big Nut, John, Nathan, Andrew, Stephanie, Jason, LB Spuds, Ward, Yuma, LC, Tom, the Dogs, Marcus, Snuggy, Hugo, Sasha, and John. Gold patrons RPG Paper Crabs, Pretty Boy, Yuma, Deliza Lounge, Jerome, Nathan, Scott, Rufus, Jerry, Glenn, and Mark. Thank you all very much for your support.